for the invitation.
This is our introductory meeting. You brought the whole communications team with you today,
too.
Huh?
Well, that's something we're really going to be focused on, I think, in the the next couple of months is how we're communicating with our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so we might as well have the team right from day one.
There you go. There you go. And we should tell folks you want to see Michael in action here this morning. We're Facebook Living this right now, so you can tune in our Facebook page and check it out. So coming to Indiana Borough.
Yes.
You're not exactly a native, are you?
I am not exactly a native. I've been around the country a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and so was born and raised Long Island, New York. Did my undergraduate in work in Florida, and then was out in Wyoming for a little bit. Went back to Florida for about 20 years. And then decided I was missing the mountains. I traded the ocean for the mountains. So I went to Boulder, Colorado, and I was there for about 10 years and had an opportunity to start a sustainability program for a municipality up in northeast Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for about 8 years. And as folks are probably familiar with, the economy up there kind of took a downward turn because of the extractive industries, getting hit.
Yeah.
And so it was time to move on. And so I was in Reading for about a year, a little
mm-hmm.
over a year, and decided I wanted to pursue my career goal of moving into administration. And so I started looking, and Indiana Borough was gracious enough to invite me to be here.
So you look for those opportunities. Had you ever been in Indiana before actually coming here for an interview for this job?
No, I hadn't. No, and it was. I happened to be at a conference the day of my interview. Excuse me. And so drove a couple hours over, and just as I've said before, just kind of fell in love with the area. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And just said, I think this can be home. And so I was real excited about the interview. I was excited about the processes following.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my fingers crossed. And so, yeah, it was kind of neat.
So Indiana County, this region as a whole, made a pretty good first impression on you.
Oh, extremely. And, I had been, I had worked for a company when I was based out of Denver. And so I was flying into Pittsburgh a couple of 2-3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was somewhat familiar with Western Pennsylvania, and so again, it just had a home feel to it.
Yeah. So now you are the Indiana Borough Manager.
I am, and
it's not like the job has been sitting here just waiting for somebody to come on board and clear the desk. There are ongoing projects all the time, and there have been some really good people ahead of you who have kept right up with them. So you hit the ground here in Indiana with some work to do, but with some pretty good background and some great support in Indiana Borough.
Super support. And that was, one of the other important considerations when I was looking to accept the position was how is our staff? How is our council? And so I actually came into town and spent about 5 days prior to accepting the offer, and I met with each of the members of council. We had individual meetings, some lunch meetings with a couple of members of the council. I had a chance to meet various members of staff, and it was then that I knew that it was a good fit, and I knew that we had a really, super staff, mm-hmm. and a staff that works together. And, teamwork to me is an important thing. And so it gave me the feel that everybody was working together, and we had things under control. The way we're structured, we have an assistant borough manager, so he's been able to meet with me on a daily basis just to, slowly mm-hmm. bring me up to speed. I look at it as you can either go to a drinking fountain and just have that, setting kind of low and, be able to sip and absorb and take it in. Or you can just do the fire hose and maybe be lucky if you can get something. And so, I've certainly started a number of things, created a number of things over the years. Mm-hmm. And so my approach coming here is, one, I don't really want to change anything drastically in my first 30 to 90 days. I want to take the information in gradually so I can really get my head wrapped around it so I understand what's taking place.
Yeah. What are some of the strengths or advantages you see that Indiana Borough has in comparison with maybe some of the other places you've been or some of the other experiences that you've had?
Well, as I mentioned, I think, a supportive staff, a staff that gets along, a staff that works as a team, I think is an incredible strength. And where I came from, that was part of what I was brought on to help do, is to try to, I was hired to take a position in Reading to start a shift, a cultural shift towards teamwork, thinking about the differences between programs and projects, organizing, and working on planning.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that culture and a lot of that, for a better word, infrastructure is here. And so that's an incredible strength because it'll allow us to do the things that council has identified are some of their priorities. We as staff feel are some of our priorities. And obviously we need for the community to give input on things that they would like to see happening, whether it be certain programs, services, those types of things. What are they asking for so we can see if we can accommodate those requests?
So many people think of Indiana Borough and think only of Philadelphia Street, which is such a jewel. And it's so beautiful, and it is so set up nicely to incorporate business and government and the various functions of it downtown. But Indiana Borough's much more than just Philadelphia Street, isn't it?
Well, it is, and certainly that's what we're, as part of our communication plan that we're working on now, is how do we start identifying those things to change that perspective and perception that it's just this one street. And obviously, Philly is an important street. Philadelphia Street, it's an important street because it's a gateway of sorts. It's for me, it was how I was first introduced to the community, and that's what I was so impressed by seeing, a very clean and very attractive area. And so I think that's important as our foundation. And now what we're going to start working on is expanding that view, being able to demonstrate what else is out there for folks to appreciate.
You get out into the neighborhoods of Indiana Borough, and every neighborhood has its own issues and its own concerns, and I'm sure that you are prepared to listen to them all.
And that's true everywhere. Every community has sections. Every community has areas. Every community has a neighborhood or whatever it might be, and so it's really that idea of understanding that exists, and then start looking at how do we start, tapping into touching each of those areas so that folks feel that they have a voice.
Yeah, and that connection with IUP is vitally important, isn't it?
Well, I think IUP is certainly an important component of our community. Obviously, we have interns, we have students that join our organization. So certainly, it's a great resource. I obviously am a bit new, so I don't know all the history, and I don't know all of what we're working with them about and with different projects and programs. However, my philosophy for 30 to 40 years has been building partnerships, building relationships, and looking for ways to work together. So that would be my goal over the course of my tenure here. Yeah,
Michael Foote is with us. He is the new Indiana Borough Manager, just recently named, a few days on the job anyway.
And yes. Finished my first week last week, had our first council meeting last week. So it was a great week. It really was.
Yeah, as you have discussed with council members, especially some of the items that pop up on their list, on their agendas, and where you fit in your role as borough manager with them, I'm sure the cooperation between your office and what council's vision is for Indiana Borough is truly, it has to be a really smooth transition, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I would say, knock on wood, that the first week has been smooth. I certainly, council has given me some space to get acclimated, get myself up to speed. in those individual meetings that I had prior to joining the staff, I was really hoping, and I did learn what some of the issues, some of the concerns, some of the projects that council members have on their radar, on their priority list. And those are things that as I begin to integrate myself within the organization, those are going to be part of how I set things up.
Yeah. Yeah. So from a business standpoint, from a relationship standpoint with the borough and the township and the campus, IUP campus, there's a lot on your plate as you begin here as the Indiana Borough Manager. We look forward to working with you here at Render Broadcasting as well. Anytime you have a program coming up, a project, you want to come on and explain things to folks, we want to invite you to just let us know. We'll get you on the air, and you can tell folks what's happening with Indiana Borough.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
He's Michael Foote. He is the new Indiana Borough Manager, and he's on the job now, and we're glad of it. It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Coming up.